if you look through oral history, written history, although there are thousands of stories, nearly all of them are just different versions of one fundamental story, or the hero's journey. Sometimes the hero's journey starts because the hero is just swept up in something. Life events. You find your partner's having an affair, or your partner dies. You're in some job or career and come in one day and you get the pink slip. You go for your yearly checkup and the doctor says, we have to talk. And all of a sudden, your whole world looks different. When your journey is about to begin, and you're about to enter that unknown, that realm of primal forces, you learn about the monsters right away. But there are also helping spirits, guides, allies, and those don't appear right away. Those only appear after the commitment to the journey is made. And of course, this heroic journey is happening right here in this room. Whatever we were going to address or talk about, we would do it in a way that took us out of our heads and into our bodies.
The difference here is that we're doing more inner work. We're looking more on the inside. It doesn't really matter what someone does for a living. It doesn't really matter where they come from. What matters is who they are and what they bring.
I work with men in prison, and one of the phrases we use, the only way out is in. And so what I've learned with this work is that, if you want a way out, you have to go within yourself. That kind of lifts me out of my darkness and my, feeling small and like frustration and anxiety.
What do I do to find solace, right? Again, gardens. Solace is peace. Okay. So, gardens centers me. Right.
Men speaking to men about matters of the soul, about life and death and what's meaningful, just doesn't hardly happen in modern culture.
It's amazing to see men that come into the community from their lives where they're struggling in their marriages, they're struggling with the job that they have, they feel like they have no passion, no connection to. They're struggling with their own sense of purpose. The exercises that we offer to men that create these experiences that allow men to enter the unknown. You're heading into something that is possibly a gift of a lifetime, getting to know who I am.
For one person, the unknown could be full of what we call the shadow, the things that are there that we don't admit, that we hide. But for another person, the unknown could be the gold, the real golden part of myself I've never been willing to claim and own.
Because I know that if I did not find my way back to my heart, that I would not make it. I was drinking myself into oblivion. I was numbing myself out because it was all I had left. I was terrified and alone.
And I sat there and I thought about dying, about suicide. And then I somehow or another, a pen found its way into my hand. I picked it up and I wrote a poem. I talked about what was killing me. It was loneliness and the need to love somebody.
I think in human history, the primary purpose of culture as a whole, is to tie the single individual to the great forces of life. And for thousands of years, that was done by community rituals, creation myths, myths and stories of heroic adventure, rituals about the seasons, teachings of elders, rites of passage. All of those were to weave the individual person into the life of the community, into the life of the cosmos, so that we were held and part of the web of life. But that's the primary purpose of culture. That's the wisdom tradition that's, in some sense, should be our inheritance. It's the inheritance of all basic humanity.
Please bring to us a deeper sense of what you are, that we may be able to see you and experience you in new ways, like the eagle sees from great distances. Ho. Ho. Ho.
We have this big pile of rocks to heat up, and the hot rocks are going to be brought into the prayer lodge. The rocks have been here for millions of years, so there's the sense that bringing them into the lodge brings a lot of ancient wisdom. They've seen the earth long before we got to it.
Hence the name, Grandfathers.
I heard that Robert Bly was doing this men's retreat. So I went to sign up and nervously walked down the trail into a tent in which Michael Mead was drumming and a bunch of other people were drumming, and I was scared shitless, That week changed my life because I found out that there were other people doing what I had been doing all of my life, and I had come home in a sense. I found men who loved poetry, who loved myth, who loved soul work. It's a beautiful, beautiful moment in my life.
The way anybody gets started in this work is we're partly brought here by our wounds and partly brought here by our longings and our passions. I could say this is a very intensive, very tribal week. So many men come into it and feel inspired, feel like they found a community, and feel like something gets lit in them. A spark gets lit, and sometimes it takes fire. That's the challenge we face: is how to take the richness we create here and bring it back into the world.
The role I play is keeping it safe, because I knew how valuable it was for me to feel safe. So I hold the container. I'm vigilant about keeping the container safe for men who come in. So one of the exercises we do is psychodrama, and usually work to help a man go down into his core and find those issues that are holding him back, that are keeping him a prisoner.
So one man might come in with grief, another man might come in with sadness, another man might come in with just rage for being violated.
And so many times they've buried that so deeply that it is too big to unearth on their own. And what we do here is we create a container where a man can let it out and let it be witnessed by a community and held in a non-judgmental way. So if you were to do a piece of work, some release of emotion that you've been carrying probably far too long, what kind of work would you do here?
Deal with my disappointment.
Very difficult for me to tell her I love her.
A very superficial relationship.
I grieve towards my mom.
My anger towards my father.
I've kept this secret for too long.
Lack of commitment and passion.
My inability to bring my whole self to the relationships.
I have a talking to with my ego.
Family secrets.
Sexually abusing me.
Left in the crib just to scream and cry for hours.
Always misrepresented my father.
His emotional punching bag.
Everything I did was not enough.
What about the cable that fucking relied on you? You go home.
This mat work. When I first saw it, it was terrifying. I said, well, these people must be crazy. They were pounding, and screaming, and I sat and I watched outside the circle while the men did all their work. Some had anger, Some had abuse, and I sat there with my own pain, not even knowing how to access it. I laid down, and 8 men came around me and just slid their hands under me and just raised me up in their arms. And they began to rock me, slowly. Rock me, back and forth. And then here I am surrounded by 8 sweaty men and not really feeling all that comfortable with men. And here they were holding me and rocking me. And then they started to hum in gentle lullaby tones. And I felt the love that they were giving me and the safety they held me in. And I was able to let that in. And one tear fell out. And I was exhausted. And that's all I needed for that catharsis, that opening. And so they cracked open that shell just for that one tear to say, it's okay. It was okay to cry in front of a man, for one, even if it was that one tear. And they basically said, you've done enough today. And they put me down. And the rest is history, because now the heart has continued to open.
This comes from the works of Carlos Castaneda. Carlos had a teacher named Don Juan who always told Carlos that death is over your left shoulder. None of us know how long we have. So if you live your life like a warrior, when it comes to your last minute, death will give you a gift. He says, for most people, especially those who cringe in fear and hide from that fact, death will just come up unexpectedly and take you. But if you live your life as a warrior and live as if each moment could be your last, that when death finally did come, it would stop for a moment and let you dance your last dance.
I hope to be around next year. And if I'm not, then so be it.
A dear friend of mine has cancer of the brain, and I don't know what to do. A dear friend of mine who I felt 8 years ago when we went to the Amazon saved my life. and my feeling of confusion and inadequacy of how can I save yours? How can I repay you? How can I help you? And that brings up this real feeling of smallness, and all I want to do is get on again. How much love hurts sometimes, and that's all I have to offer you. But I want to fight that battle. To not pull away from that love and to feel it all and to give it 100%. Not run away from it.
Whether it's 3 years for 2 months. Cancer's going to get me.
I'm afraid of tomorrow. Because like I said, we have a son. And, you know, I don't know, how am I gonna do by myself?
I'm a workaholic. Suddenly, my life has shifted. I have a whole lot of time to spend watching my son practice piano. I didn't know this was coming. This dropped out of the sky. I fantasize about climbing a tree. I want to have fun with my son. I want to do that as long as I can. I thought, surely I don't want to mix with straight people.
Straight man.
Yeah. And went waving my gay flag.
I felt like that the gay issue wouldn't even come up for me, you know. But Mark put it in the center and said, if you don't do this part, you're not going to get the rest. You got to start where you are. And yeah. Mark mother hen me. He was able to just tuck me under his wing, and I just stuck to him like glue, because he was a man that said, I'm a gay man and I'm damn proud of it. And I was saying, I can't say a word about it. I can't let anyone know about it, or I'll be destroyed. That was how I felt. And he made it okay for me, the beginning of feeling okay about it, and allowed me to grow into loving myself again. So Mark was so instrumental of me accepting myself for who I am.
I was 40. Women had made all the difference in my life. And after 40, men, straight men, came into my life, and
they accepted you for
yes,
who you
yes,
are.
yes.
I love you, Mark. Celebrate you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mark. Thank you.
Yeah.
I get along with straight men better than I do with gay men.
This would be a great place to die amongst your friends and brothers. I mean, what could be better than that?
Mark is telling us how to exit out of this world.
I've been really trying to come to terms with this girl that I love. I've been trying for the last year and a half to say goodbye to her, let her go, and I've been having a lot of trouble inside doing that.
'Cause I can't let you go. I don't want to let you go. It's been like 12 years and it still hurts.
It was intimidating a little bit to be in the presence of such men. I guess an easy way to explain it would be, to think of them as my fathers, being as young as I am. It's not easy sharing that hurt with other people, especially as a man. You're supposed to carry that. You're not supposed to tell people your emotions. Not supposed to be emotional at all. You're supposed to be a man.
But I had all this shit inside. And I didn't want her to see it. I didn't want her to be around me in this madness that was consuming me.
I have an easy time forgiving other people. I don't know if I really forgive myself first.
It's how we learn and grow. You can forgive yourself too.
Forgive yourself.
You're human.
You're human.
Forgive
yourself.
Myself.
What?
I forgive myself.
This morning, I felt an immense amount of love, which was something I have rarely been able to feel in life. I've never been filled with love before, so just being able to feel that was more than enough.
To my young brother and my other young brother here, Jeff, thank you for the teaching that you gave me about how to love so deeply. Love a woman as deep as you did.
No, I really do feel drunk, so. My name is Jeff Thompson, and I'm a loveaholic.
One day at a time.
Some people came up to me and commented on me. They said they've seen a change. It's going to take me a little while to really feel this transformation that's taken place this week.
One of the real positive attributes of doing men's work is to get out the stuff that you need to get out, whether it be the anger, the upset, the fear. Get it out with the men who will hold you before you bring it home and you take it out on the wife, the kid, the dog, the cat, to work through that stuff so that you're not bringing it home with you and you can go home a more whole person.
It seems like the death of my father and brother have really been with me for this circle, and it was 58 years ago. It's a long time, and I've been holding on to that. And because I loved my father and my brother, and my mother only spoke well of him, and I don't know, I'm struggling with these words, but it's like I want to say something to my father, and it's fuck you! Fuck you for leaving us! Fuck you! It's really a mixed bag of love and confusion, and feeling anger feels really shameful. Well, that felt good. It's not something I can do with people I work with. It's not anything, it's not a story I've ever told my wife or my daughters of that pain. And somehow that was so freeing for me to go through that, to open that wound up that's been festering for 57 years.
So if you were to do work, what kind of work would you do here? Has anyone moved to start? Rich?
And I think I would go in and live that terrible day as my father, and how he must have felt with his 2 children in that boat, and actually bringing my sister back to the boat and going after his son. And that's the work I would do. My uncle had just recently got a new boat, a new toy, and decided to take my father and my brother and my sister out for a boat ride. And it was in April, and the water was cold, and they were in the boat when my uncle was going too fast and the boat flipped over. They were wearing clothing and no life preservers. And they drowned. And all I remember is wanting to go, and then I remember lots of people crying. My uncle pulled himself back on the overturned boat, and my father brought my sister back to the boat. And this is a story I have from my sister, who was 12 years old at the time. My brother was 8. I was 3.5. And my father brought my sister back to the boat and went after his son, my brother. And my sister watched as he tried to save my brother, and watched them both drown.
Okay, put yourself in your father's seat. The boat is tipped.
What do you do? Do you scream for your children? What do you do? I don't know.
What do you do? You know.
I don't know. Go after them. I've never gone to the place of visiting the day he died and what it must have felt like for him. I've always gone to the place of feeling ripped off and sad for myself of not having a father present. I've always felt cheated by that. I don't feel that now. By going to that place, I feel much stronger about it. I don't feel cheated. I feel that for the first time in my life, I feel I am my father's son.
Okay.
Maybe Sparrow could beat my dad.
I'm your dad.
Yeah.
This is your father.
Sorry I left.
That was a tragedy that I felt ripped off since I was 3.5, wanting to go on that boat ride, remembering that, and being told, no, another time, so to speak, I'll see you later. And that later never came until this men's circle, when I could experience it yesterday, and I could really weep and feel the pain of my father, the pain he must have felt also.
I miss you so much.
So after I shared my experience and went to that deep pain and cried wrenchingly, I felt a tremendous weight lifted off of me. I felt that, heck, if I can do this, if I can go to this place, I felt so much stronger in my manhood. And it's a story now that I want to go back and tell my wife. I can open that wound. It feels less intense now in my body. And I spoke to my wife very briefly this morning, and I went into I told her about being on the mat and revisiting the day my father and brother died and doing it from my father's perspective. And I said, I can't wait to come home and share that with you, because I never have. Never really shared it with myself. And that was a great piece of work for me. And I was so encouraged by all of you. It's what enabled me to do that. And I just want to say thank you again. Ho.
Oh.
I think your father's eyes play a really important role in the way you develop your image, and we always talk about those looks. They mean a whole lot. And this particular poem from Bly addresses that same issue. Sunlight outside our windows speaks of ocean light, bone light, Labrador light, prairie light. It's the same light that glints off swords and shines from Idaho rivers some days. I say to my father, we could be there if we could lift our eyes.
What the poetry uncovers are the deepest recesses of the souls. You know, it's like dream work when you're writing poetry.
I live my life in widening circles that reach out across the world.
I'm a hole in a flute that the Christ's breath moves through.
I am everywhere and nowhere and all at once.
And I still don't know. Am I a falcon, a storm, or a great song? But when I lean over the chasm of myself, it seems my God is dark.
Now, why not consider a lasting truce with yourself and God? Now is the season to know that everything you do is sacred.
Softly, calmly, immensity taps at my life.
Sun, moon, stars, auroras, creation just beginning.
The wind left, and I wept, and I asked myself, what have you done with the garden that was entrusted to you?
And I was so scared because I had never been in the company of men. I always gravitated towards women because they were safer, but I was always afraid of men, but I couldn't admit that. Now it's unbelievable that I can be in the company of men and receive love and love back. And that to me is a miracle.
I have come to this council, and you have taught me to love men in a beautiful way. Because I'm not sexually attracted to men, I can stay in the spiritual realm of love. And that realm is what essentially is the same about engaging in a deep relationship in loving a woman and a man. There's very little difference between, at the top of that love for me, it's very similar.
The poet is always the lover. Yeah, that's the big archetype. I've always been a lover. Most of that's been expressed with women. But interestingly enough, in some of the great loves in my life have been in my friendship with other men.
Thank you for your peace and the faith you have in me. You know, I feel that very strongly. I feel like you're my brother. I feel that, I feel like I could embrace you in a really close way. You're like a guider or some kind of a protector or some kind of an angel. Lots of things to me. And, I love you for that.
I appreciate it. Well, that's what I love about this work, is to see another man and also to feel seen by another man. I love the staff. I love you guys. Sometimes it's hard. It's not, it's brotherly love, and sometimes it's, it can be challenging too. And, but that's what it's about. That's what we're here for. This is the laboratory.
Before I started doing men's work, my relationship with men was very different. Like I said, it was combative, it was fearful. We were butting heads, we were competing with one another. And now there's more of a dance that takes place. I feel safer with them, and I believe they feel safer with me.
Men's work has helped me to open to who I really am. I've gone through life with a big heart, but afraid to express myself frequently.
Every time I come here with a lot of baggage, and when I leave, I also leave, like fresh and ready to change the world again.
There's a kind of love that flows between men and relationship with men that doesn't exist between a man and a woman.
I've been married with the same woman now for 38 years. When I come home from this week, she always tells me that, my energy feels a lot softer.
I feel like the only way I can make a difference in the world ultimately is not to try to fix what's going on out here, but first and foremost is try to fix what exists within myself, whatever those ideas that I hold that hold me separate from my own sacred and divine nature.
The world needs kinder, gentler men. I find that here.
So we don't bang drums naked in the woods, but I do get a lot of ribbing for it, a lot of teasing. And I think, on a serious note, I think it's some of that's because of the discomfort of men at the thought of getting close to other men and having intimate conversations and intimate relationships. I think that's scary for our society.
There's no instant cure here. You have to do the work. And if you can't do it for yourself, another man will model it for you or show you or take that risk where you couldn't. And then when it's your turn, they'll be there, to hold you.
Once you share the pain and the suffering, it lessens. And when men are together, beauty happens.